This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here to tune in. Today we have a very special episode for you. Some collaborative badassery from 3 of the expert authors of a new book coming up, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 4. Holy crap, you guys, I'm telling you. So I woke up that day in March of 2020 in a dream about helping the world heal at home with real, powerful, practical tools that you can practice from the pages of these books. And when volume 1 was born, I did not realize we'd be sitting here almost a year later talking to you about volume 4. The journey has been incredible, and I'm so honored to be sharing the stories and messages of these world-changing business owners in front of you today. Ladies, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you
for having us.
Hello.
Hi. And the first thing I want to say is thank you. Thanks for stepping up, for saying yes to this project, and for so authentically sharing the stories that you shared in your chapters. And then, like I said earlier, the tools, the practical tools that you are teaching. Y'all are master teachers, but to take on the challenge of writing that in words to help somebody reading a book, that takes skill, and you guys just were brilliant at it. So thank you. Y'all, I have Anne-Marie Harnett here with me. She wrote chapter 1, Real Life Time Travel, Access Past and Future Selves to Solve Any Problem Now. She's the founder of Harnett Healing. She has been assisting clients in stepping into their power and freedom for over 20 years. She's a stellar energy worker, freedom activist, and restructural engineer. Check out her website at harnetthealing.com. And of course, I'm going to hook up all of these authors for you guys in the show notes, so you'll be able to explore further. Shannon Berk wrote chapter 17, Manual Medicine, Using the Body as an Entry Point for Deeper Healing. She is a functional manual therapist in Maryland, commonly called a failed case expert by her peers. Wait, did I get that right? Yes. Okay, Shannon is an adjunct faculty member in Michigan State University's Osteopathic Medical School, as well as being the co-founder and CCO of a nonprofit funding holistic modalities for pediatric oncology patients. She's at integratedwellnesspt.com. And Shellie Mekash wrote chapter 18, Myofascial Release Therapy, The Beauty in Releasing Your Scar. She is an expert level John F. Barnes myofascial release therapist who has a passion for meeting clients where they are in their healing journey and guiding them to a different way of thinking and feeling to obtain relief from pain and dysfunction through their own authentic healing. She's at shelliemekash.com. All right, Anne-Marie, I'm starting this party with you. Tell me about your story and about this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Thank you, Laura. So this chapter is about the work that I do with myself and the work that I do with clients as far as accessing the wisdom that we have in our body now to go back in time to rescue inner children, which means if you had like some awful experience, big or little trauma when you were younger, there's times where we need to get our inner children out of that situation. So some of the inner child work I've done is about, dialoguing with the inner child or getting their thoughts or feelings, but sometimes we just need to get them the hell out of the situation. Then real healing can start. So that's like part 1 of what I wrote. And then the second part is accessing our future self going forward. So if there's an issue that we're dealing with here and now that we don't have the answer to, And it could be physical pain, it could be an emotional issue, it could be something that we want that we don't have yet. We can actually do a meditation, go forward in time, right? Time, it's maybe a strange concept for some that time is flexible. Go forward in time at the point where we have that solution and basically bring that wisdom back now into our body. So it's these two different guided meditations to take you through different ways to move through time and solve a solution now.
I love how you wrote about well, for me, it was that little girl piece. It was going back. Yeah. And like, I felt that part of your chapter and really, really appreciated like thinking about how I could take my now warrior woman back to her and grab her hand and be like, okay, we can get you out of here. Like, we can figure this out. Like, we can figure it out now. I don't know. Talk to me more about that. Like, it's so powerful.
Yeah, it totally changed my life, and it changed how I work with my clients where, again, having them, just like you're saying, access that powerful goddess warrior and but like the don't fuck with me part.
Totally.
Right? Because I find that that's a lot of what particularly women need for healing, is to like access that part of them who just won't like put up with anything anymore, as far as anything that's traumatizing. So to access, and I think it amplifies that now, right? So yes, we're accessing that part of ourselves to save that inner child, but we're also amplifying it now. We're strengthening that relationship internally. So, and then they know themselves as somebody who can do that kind of self-healing.
And I've come to also know that when you do that kind of healing, you may think that you're doing it for yourself, but you're moving that healing through. And I happen to have a daughter, so I really know and feel that I'm doing that healing for her. And I'm also sometimes doing it for my mom. Like, this goes in all directions. And that's another reason it's so powerful. Would you like to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Actually, I'm getting full body chills actually as you're talking. Yes, 100%. This work is way bigger than we are. And yes, there's all sorts of pain and suffering that comes through the family lineage. So yes, as we, particularly women, access that power, we're healing it through the lineage. And there's beautiful things that come through the lineage. So we amplify the beautiful things, and then we help to, because it's unprocessed pain that causes so many of our current day issues. And there's things where, and that's what my chapter was actually in the last book, was about, right, healing some of the ancestral. But I've also seen, Laura, it's bigger in that when we heal ourselves, right, it ripples out, like the whole world changes. And I've had times where I can literally feel that ripple go through the planet, and just, it's mind blowing.
Yes. If you guys can't already feel the power of these women I have in my Zoom room, I don't know if you ever will, if you don't already feel it. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. Oh my gosh, these kinds of conversations just turn me on. Shannon, I'm moving to you. Talk to me about a little bit about your story and this beautiful chapter that you wrote.
Well, first I wanted to kind of put it into context about how the universe really works to bring people together. I was on a trip to Boston with my husband, and we were walking around. We walked the city. We were in the middle of Harvard, in Harvard Yard. And I was looking around, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to talk about it. And it was like I threw it out into the universe and like spoke it out loud. And my husband was like, yes. And then we came home the next day, and I got a text saying, hey, Laura's doing another book, volume 4. You want to be a part of it? And I was like, okay, yes. Because I'm not a writer. I'm a physical therapist. I have been extremely locked into science and mechanical-based learning for, the early part of my life. my chapter actually talks about how I, had some experiences as a young girl that led me to fall in love with the body and the beauty of it and how it works. And it was all from a very mechanical place at first. It took me much longer to fall in love with my body, probably a good 20 years or so. So that is the first part of my chapter, is kind of like just the story behind how I was led to love the body and to try and figure out how it all worked together. My journey along the way has led me to understand that it's actually not just the body. That's just one piece of us. And that, true living as a human actually has to integrate all of the pieces of who you are. And therefore, as a practitioner of someone who is trying to help someone with their healing, I have to actually address all of those parts as well. So I started to learn all different types of methods. I've done energy work and, taken classes on somatic releasing, myofascial, and I've just tried to find whatever I can to expand what I can offer in the different pieces. The tool that I actually discussed is actually a really simple physical therapy manual medicine type of tool that I learned at the Osteopathic Medical School in Michigan State. And the reason that I taught it was not just to give them some sort of like exercise or exercise or movement from a very heady space, but to show that you actually can use a physical movement to move your emotions and your belief systems and your thoughts. And so it was really more of like introducing, creating an awareness that when we do move our body, we're moving everything else too.
I'm like writing down notes because I'm resonating with so many things that you're saying. And I want to not skip on a couple things you said earlier. So fellow anatomy geek total here. I love it. Love everything about it. Memorizing the muscles was not a problem for me. I loved every single one of those. But I want to go back to something you said, like, y'all can't say you're not a writer anymore. You realize that?
Yeah.
And so there's something about, and that's why I said, thank you for stepping up for the challenge, seriously, earlier, because there are so many people who don't consider themselves an artist, a writer, all the things, right? But I really think that when you're expressing your calling, you can be anything, right? And you can do it in lots of different ways. So I'm just calling you out. From here on out, you got to say, I am so a writer.
Well, the irony is that when I was 6, maybe 7, I had 2 siblings and I would read to them. And I read really, really early. And I told my parents I was going to be a writer someday. And then, of course, fast forward to high school and you get the one teacher that says, I don't know if you're really a writer. And so it's taken me, a number of years to overcome that. And I've always been a writer. And now I'm marrying my science and my artist.
Yes. Nice. I love that. I wanted to touch on one other thing. Just you guys, the idea of body as the entry point. Because this is the vessel, right? We walk around in this amazing, fascinating body, which gives us messages all day long. Those messages being the language of your soul is how I feel, right? So just using a physical movement, like Shannon was talking about, and like you'll read in the chapter, as a way, I sort of shifted the word mindfulness to bodyfulness a while ago, because I really feel it's like when you're grounded and centered in the senses of your body, that's the place of connection. So I appreciate you talking about that. Thank you, Shannon. So Shellie Mekash has been here with me before and written some beautiful words about myofascial release, and this has been one of the modalities that changed my life, changed the way that I worked with patients, the holistic nature of it. Shellie, talk to us about your story and about the chapter that you wrote.
Okay, well, thank you, Laura. It is a pleasure to be here again with you. My story really started, as a child, right? And then we grow and we fall into different dysfunctions within our body. And I was very Western medicine oriented, thought that was the only way, dove deep into that for my own bodily dysfunction, bowel bladder, dysphagia. There was just, a whole host, and I was on a whole slew of medications as well. And one day, a friend said, "Hey, I think you should try this other physical therapist," because I virtually was at the end of my rope, and didn't realize that, the saying, when you're at the end of your rope, hang on, when it really is, when you're at the end of your rope, let go. So that all learning all of that along the way. But anyway, came across this physical therapist who did myofascial release. And that really was what brought me out of my pain and dysfunction, and started the learning of how our bodies can hold all different kinds of things. I had absolutely no idea. Like, it was totally an abstract concept. Never entered my mind at all that the body could be tied into, the mind could be tied into all the physical ailments that you could have in a body. So I love what both of you ladies have said too about the body and how the mind, the lineage, all of that stuff. I'm just, taking it all in and saying, yes, yes, yes. This is how it's been, for me as well. And now I practice John Barnes myofascial release and that whole mind, body, spirit connection for people. And it's so exciting to see that light bulb go off in people, to say, "Oh, really? I didn't have any idea," and it's like, yes, this is so powerful work.
So you, in this particular chapter, mostly because I asked you to, wrote about scar release. And we've written about myofascial release in the prior books, you guys, and there are so many aspects of it. And there was a lot of talk about scars, actual physical scars on the body, and why it was important to release them. But just talk to us for a minute about the scar release specifically. Why was it important to you?
Okay, so the importance to me is that I have a scar from my belly button to my pubic bone. So a big, long scar. And so in working with that scar and doing a scar release on that, it just, it really opens up and expands the mind when I share that story about how you can feel it. Like, we'll be working on that scar and I can feel it all the way up into my shoulder and beyond. And it's like, we're working locally, but it not only affects locally, but with MFR, we know that our body is a whole web of fascia, and it can go from, it runs from head to toe. And the tentacles, so a scar is like the tip of a fascial iceberg. If you picture that in your mind, where you have that little bit of the iceberg sticking up, that's the ropey part of your scar, or maybe it's thin, or maybe it's fine. It might be raised, whatever that is, whatever that feels like. We know that beneath that, it is like an iceberg. It is spreading tentacles all over that are restrictions and that can be released, and thus creating freedom within your body. So yes. Pretty exciting stuff. And it doesn't matter, like mine, that particular one that I wrote about, sure, it's big and long, but it can be the laparoscopic scar that you have. It can be the scar when you fell off your bike when you were 7, learning how to ride your bike on your knee. It's anything. It's that first scar, your belly button. There's power in releasing all of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Shannon, go for it.
I just want to speak to the power of this, because I had a wrist surgery, actually. And in having work done on it, what came to my mind while the work was being done, this is that integration that's just so beautiful, was that I wasn't allowing other people to give to me. And it was like, this is my hand, right? It's how I give. It's how I like offer to other people. And it like just became really apparent. And it was like one of those aha, like I'm laying there and someone's working on my scar. And all of a sudden I started crying because I'm like, I haven't been allowing other people to give back to me. And it really kind of shifted. And then my scar has been great. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love that way of
Very
speaking of the integration. And I think that, so what that's bringing up, and Shellie, I'm going to stick with you for this next question that I will ask all of you. And it's so that what a perfect segue right into it. But Shannon is talking about the importance of a holistic approach, the importance of integrating. So we're not just talking about this physical scar that you have on your body that's made of this tough scar tissue stuff, right? We're talking about a place in your body, mind that's holding the energy of a trauma. And to explain this to people is, I don't know, easy or difficult. I'm not really sure, but there's such power in understanding when your practitioners who are assisting you are working holistically. So Shellie, I've said a little bit about it, but why holistic when it comes to healing? Tell me more about that for you.
Yeah, well, it really is that whole mind-body complex and delving into a different way of thinking. As I said before, I was very Western medicine. I was on antipsychotic, seizure, narcotics, all kinds of things to try and fix this dysfunction within my body. And none of that did anything. None of it worked until we were actually delving into the body and opening up and allowing. And so that whole holistic piece, I don't even know if I'd even be here today if it weren't for that, truthfully. What that allowed me and my family, my 4 daughters, my husband, now grandbabies, all of that, I was like nothing. I was just a drugged up, I don't know, person, but truly not living at all. So the whole holistic piece, it's that breaking into that to know that, number one, there is that out there. There is that kind of help through, like these ladies have said, there's a myriad of ways. It just happens to be the scar that I'm talking about today. But the emotions that get released, the ahas that come about, that's why I do that. This is how this affects that. All of the ripple effects on that are just so huge.
Thank you. Yeah, they got their mom back. He got his wife back. Your family got you back when you decided to be brave enough to travel this journey. Shannon, so let's continue talking about the thing that you were sharing with us so beautifully was you had an emotional release in the middle of a physical treatment. And there is beauty in understanding this. So talk to me more about why holistic.
Well, I actually leaned into holistic because as a practitioner in an outpatient setting, I started getting chronic pain patients, and people that are in chronic pain, it's, a very complex, they say complex situation. And no one really wanted to, delve into it because it's, longstanding, and the research shows that blah, 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 it's not going to get fixed or whatever. And I just was so passionate that we are capable of healing, no matter where we are and who we are and how long we've had it, that I was willing to do whatever I could to help. And the only way that I started to become successful in helping anybody was by learning all of the different holistic modalities and treating them as a whole person, whether that was listening to them speak about their pain and what is done as far as their journey emotionally. sometimes that was actually the healing that they needed, was just someone to understand. For my personal experience, I have, been a human living in a body with lots of physical issues and back trauma and knee trauma. And I think that I've, come across those issues because I've been taught by my body how to help other people. And the first time that I ever had an emotional release during a physical body work episode, I was so thrown that it took me many weeks to kind of figure out what that actually was, because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm crazy. Or what did they touch like to make that happen? Like, I'm not going back there. So I was scared of it at first because I didn't understand. And I am somebody that seeks to understand everything. It's just, I want to know everything and why it works and how it works. And so, I kind of went back because I was curious about like, what was that? And how did that actually happen? And of course, I started with where I stood, which was the logical mechanical. So I started to kind of look at it like, okay, well, there's nerves and it goes to my brain. And, like I totally went from like the anatomy side. And then there's still things that I don't understand. And I'm willing to suspend my knowledge and my understanding, because that is the magic. It doesn't mean I want to stop trying to understand how I get an emotional release out of a physical, body work episode. But I have lots of theories, and because I am a science brain, I lead with, I can't tell you for certain unless I've had it proven or there's enough research, and that's just how my brain works. But we are completely integrated. And even if it's just understanding, that the sympathetic nervous system is housed behind your ribs. And if you have a trauma in your, rib cage or your upper back, it might stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight. So you might actually feel super anxious and like rung up and be someone that, gets in the road rage. And, you had like a car accident and, fractured a vertebrae in your upper back or something, and no one's done any work on you. And so you having all of these like, seemingly unconnected things could actually be coming from that physical injury. And that's just like a small piece of the holistic part. That's not even talking about emotions and thoughts. That piece is another layer on top of that even.
Thank you for that. I love how you, just so authentically said, well, that happened to me. And then I was like afraid of it at first. I remember I think we've all probably had that first experience on our journey and we're like, what the heck was that? Right. But then us all being the awesome badasses that we are and seekers, we're like, ooh, wait a minute. What was that? Right. So it was first like, whoa, what was that? I don't know. And then it was like, oh, what was that? Because it felt powerful. It felt like a healing layer was peeling off. It felt right. It felt good. It felt bad. And then it was good. There's like this combo thing. Anne-Marie, so tell us more about the power of holistic when it comes to healing.
Yes, thanks. So I actually was raised with, kind of hippie parents, but so I was raised with macrobiotics and organic and natural foods. So that was my first go-to if I get a headache, like I don't even remember to take like Advil, it literally just doesn't even occur to me. And so I'm so grateful for that, because I was introduced to chiropractic and acupuncture and things at a very young age. But what was kind of interesting, so I went to school and I got a degree in biology, cellular and molecular biology. And then I went to massage school, I thought for fun, before I went to grad school. And I ended up falling in love with doing labor and delivery support and pre and postnatal. And I had no energetic training. I'm an energy worker now, and I didn't want any. I wanted to be taken seriously. I wanted to be able to talk to chiropractors and PTs and doctors and not have them go, oh, you do that, right? And then I spent the first 2.5 years as a massage therapist exhausted. I was in my late 20s and I had, I was like, how do people do this for years? And so I ended up teaching massage at a energy-based school. And so we were trained energetically. And they were like, so your client's tension and pain become yours. You've got your them, it can go into your body. And I was like all these light bulbs. I'm like, oh, is that that's why my back hurts and my neck hurts at the end of the day. And my clients are like, I feel great. I was like, oh my gosh. So, and then I had a polarity session. Polarity therapy is the foundation of the energy work I do. And she said at the end, there's a few places in your life that you're not telling the truth to yourself. And that will become clear in a couple of days. And I was like, what, what are you talking about? Whatever. And it was 3 days later, I woke up and was like, the boyfriend's got to go. The job's got to go. It happened. So that started my deep dive into energy work and emotional work, because I think Shannon was speaking to this, and I'm sure Shellie as well. I wanted to know what was the root cause and have results that lasted as long as they could last, right? I mean, I think most massage therapists know that we can make anybody feel fabulous for an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? But how do I change lives? How do I take somebody in pain, physically or emotionally, and find where is it coming from? Is it this life? Is it a past life? Is it a childhood trauma? Is it a belief that they're holding? Where is it coming? So I love that I get to use my understanding of the physical body from massage school and my understanding of what's happening cellularly from my biology degree, and just get curious and just be open and play. And I never know what I'm going to say when I'm working with clients. So that's how I know it's not me making it up. It's information coming through me. And I love what I do. And I'm very grateful I got guided in this way, because I resisted it in the beginning.
I love that. I love helping people understand the connections and guiding them into those little aha moments. And I think it was Shannon, I can't remember which one of you were saying, sometimes, I think it was you, Shannon, you were saying, if you've had the experience, sometimes that's all somebody needs is you just saying a couple of words that help them understand they are not alone. You totally get it. And people can have little moments of healing in that witness that's there with them also. And in other kinds of ways, journaling something on a notebook and looking down at the pages and thinking, wow, do I believe that? And I mean that, and then in other small ways. And so it's just one of the reasons I love putting all the things that we've put together in this beautiful book and your chapters that are so amazing is you never know what will spark somebody's moment, So for this next question, I'm going to ask all of you, but I'm going to pop back over to Shannon to answer it first. We all must fill our own pitcher to be able to serve the way that we do. We help other people for a living. And you guys all know that if you don't fill your pitcher, I changed it from a cup to a pitcher because I think we need better overflow there. And if we don't do that, we burn out and then we serve nobody, right? If we're not taking care of ourselves. So Shannon, talk to me about what you do to fill your pitcher. What's your self-care practice like so that you can serve from that overflow?
Well, I am definitely still a work in progress.
As we all are, I think.
And I think I need a bucket and not a pitcher.
Okay. Fair. That's fair.
I also have a daughter that lives at home, and I am ultimately committed. That's my number one job, is to is to take care of her, even over everyone else that I'm helping. And I know that I'm a better mom when I take care of myself. And that started when she was like 2, and I would get mad at her for not taking a nap. And it was like one of those, it was an aha moment when I was like, this is ridiculous. And I am a perpetual toddler, I say, because I always ask why. Why did I just get mad at her for not taking a nap? And then I realized I'm jealous because I want to take a nap too. So it led me down the road of like just kind of questioning like how I react and why I react. And the more of a ninny that I am, when I'm, irritated easier, I know that it's a cue that I'm not taking care of myself. So it really speaks to me when you were saying about like the body gives us messages. So I have learned that my body will tell me, and I try to listen to the quiet whisper, because when it gets to a scream, it's usually meaning that I've gotten sick or, I'm down in my bed for a couple of days, or I have an accident or I fall, or like my body will tell me it's time to get off your feet and take care of yourself. So I do a lot of like Epsom salts baths, and I love to read, and I try to balance my nerdy reading with my pleasure reading. And then I also, exercise every single day. I move my body, and I meditate, and I do sleep hypnosis before bed. So I have like rituals. I'm very ritualistic. So I do a lot of body self-care, and then I try to integrate my mental, emotional self-care within my body stuff. And then I see a therapist.
So, okay, we're changing it to a bucket. It's official. Anne Marie, what do you do to fill your bucket to overflowing?
Right. Well, I was going to say, in these times, I'm definitely finding for myself, and I think it's true for a lot of us, my bucket needs a lot more help these days. Even just last week, my anxiety was really up, and that's, I think, one of the things that can happen with people that are empathetic, right? So all of us that do some sort of healing work is we just feel so much, right? Which is great when I'm working with my clients and I'm trying to tune in. Less great when the world is, going through what it's going through. And so I'm finding I'm definitely having to like dig deep. And but at the same time, just to speak to what you were talking about earlier, Laura and Shannon, is my experiences with myself help me with my clients, right? So having dealt with anxiety, having had panic attacks, particularly with panic attacks, if you haven't had one, like, it's a concept, right? So when I have clients that deal with panic attacks and I go, okay, I understand. I've had them, and then I just watch them relax and they go, okay, you get it. And I'm like, yes, I get it. So anyways, that said, like, I definitely have had to increase my self-care based on like what Shannon was speaking to, what my body's telling me, right? When I feel like, right, I can physically feel the stress. I can watch the thoughts just go, so breathing. I use essential oils. So I put them in my water, diffuse them, put them on my body. I have to get out in nature. Like, I have to get outside. Like, I think that tree hugging, we should all be doing. I think it's right. Grounding, connecting. What I eat is key for me. I mean, I wish it wasn't. And I have my little temper tantrums. Like, why can't I eat like what I want, not when I'm sensitive. And I do energy work on myself. I'm actually in the process of creating my own energy modality. And so I do a lot of work on myself and my dog and obviously my clients, but I'm tracking what I'm doing and writing it out. So that feels very grounding. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I was doing a pause there because I think our internet's a little wonky this morning. Thank you for that. Shellie, what's your bucket look like?
Well, I too waver in that You can tell when I need to spend more time, more self-care, get a little wound up, realize that, oh, I've skipped something, and back to that, the exercising in the morning. You roll out of bed, you get on the elliptical. I use music, whether it's when I'm exercising or just simply laying and putting in the headphones. And the music can be all different genres. It doesn't matter. It's whatever's speaking to you at the moment. Something will come in, and having an emotional release with that music. It is simply being with myself. And I know that when I don't get that time alone, that that I suffer. My interactions with interpersonal interactions with people that I'm close to, I can tell. It's like, okay, I need to back off. I need to remove myself and do some alone time, being in silence, being in nature. We live on a farm. You can walk outside the door and scream anytime you want, and no one's going to hear you. Just walking, feeling the crunch of the leaves, watching the leaves bud, hopefully in a couple months here, whether it's snow, the sunrise, sunset, all of those things, take those moments and being present in those moments. The other thing I do to fill my bucket is hang with my grandchildren. I have 5 little grandbabies, and it's fabulous. They range in age from 8 months to 7 years, and another one on the way in a couple of months. And boy, if that doesn't really let you climb into your heart center, right? And you look at these little bodies and these little souls, and really tap into something there. So that's kind of my self-care. Doing also on a foam roller, that's kind of my nightly ritual, horizontally across my belly, so as hang out there, you do your meditation, prayers, and again, that silence piece is key for me.
I love it. Thank you, Shellie. Oh, I love the feeling of all of the ways you ladies described the way that you're filling your bucket. It's so awesome. And I hope the listeners are making a list and checking it twice, something like that, right? I hope you guys will join us on March 3rd at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's going to be on the Brave Badass Healers Facebook page, you guys, for our live stream book launch party. We're going to have some pretty awesome giveaways that day. Yes, it's a big yay. We'll have our authors there discussing their chapters, talking a little bit about the book project, and on launch day, 5% of the proceeds from the paperbacks sold that day will help out 2 of the nonprofits that I love to support, Roots Africa and the Inkwell. And you guys are going to find more information about those organizations down in the show notes. They happen to be authors who are writing chapters in the book as well. And so you guys are going to learn a lot about them and what they're doing in the world. And of course, if you're listening to this after March 3rd, well, that means the book is ready and you can go buy your copy today. Okay, so ladies, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with us.
Thank you so much for having us. And thank you to everyone that's watching.
Yeah.
So I've got one last question for our viewers. I love to wrap up the shows with, and it goes like this. What if there is something that you haven't learned yet about healing that could change everything? It's time to be brave about that, you guys. Take the next step, drop down into the notes, hook up with these expert authors. Anne Marie is at harnetthealing.com. Shannon Berk is at integratedwellnesspt.com, and Shellie Mekash is at shelliemekash.com. And those are all down below. These authors are the most badass, heart-centered, authentic, amazing people that I know. And we are all here to help you really thrive on your healing journey. So time to be brave, y'all. See you next time. Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.